Welcome back to the channel, friends. Today, I have a heartwarming story for you. A journey of love, family, and second chances, set against the breathtaking backdrop of a vineyard. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more beautiful stories like this one. Your support means so much and helps me bring more heartfelt tales straight to you. Now, let's begin the story of Golden Vine, where love grows just like the grapes on the vine. The late afternoon sun poured through the towering glass windows of Harrington Tower, casting a warm golden glow across the sleek office perched at the very top of the Los Angeles skyline. Ryan Harrington stood by the window, his gaze drifting toward the horizon, to the city. He was the sole heir to Harrington Technologies, the empire his father had forged through sheer discipline and ruthless ambition. But to Ryan, that legacy felt less like an honor and more like an iron chain. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Charles Harrington sat behind a vast walnut desk, his posture rigid, his sharp eyes pinned on his only son. Evelyn, ever graceful, rested a hand on her husband's shoulder as if to soften the moment, though the faint curve of her lips only deepened the pressure pressing down on Ryan. "It's time you do what's expected of you," Charles said, his voice low and commanding. "This isn't a choice, it's your responsibility." Ryan's brow furrowed, his stomach twisting with a mix of anger and disdain. "What are you talking about?" Evelyn stepped forward, her composure unshaken. "We've arranged for you to meet Charlotte Beaumont," she said softly. "Her family may have fallen from nobility, but a union between you and her would bring enormous benefit to both sides." Ryan let out a harsh laugh, disbelief flickering in his eyes. "Arranged? You've planned out my life without even asking me. You want me to marry a stranger just to fortify your business ties?" Charles's hand slammed against the desk, the sound reverberating through the polished room. "Enough. Stop behaving like a child. This is how the world works. Marriage is a tool, not some naive pursuit of emotion. Charlotte isn't just anyone. She's the key to opening our European markets." Ryan's chest tightened. He turned back toward the endless cityscape, where traffic crawled and people moved like ants, tiny, insignificant pieces of a vast machine. To his father, Ryan realized bitterly, he was no different. Just another pawn in a calculated game of power. "I don't care about expanding markets or strengthening your empire," Ryan said, his voice low but steady. "I want to make my own choices about my life." Evelyn moved closer, resting a gentle hand on his arm. "Ryan, I know how you feel. But this isn't just about us, it's about your future. Charlotte could give you stability. She's an exceptional woman. Beautiful, intelligent, mature. Ryan cut in, his tone laced with biting sarcasm. "She's 10 years older than me. You really expect me to spend my life with a stranger just because it looks good for the company?" Charles shot to his feet, his voice icy with authority. "If you refuse, you walk away from this family on your own. No company, no inheritance, no support. Are you truly ready to throw everything away for the sake of childish rebellion?" The words struck like steel. Ryan met his father's glare, fire blazing in his eyes. "Then consider me gone. If all you care about is money and power, then I want no part of it." A heavy silence fell over the room. Evelyn reached out as though to mediate, but Ryan lifted his hand, stopping her. "Enough. I don't want to hear another word." That night Ryan quietly packed his things in his luxury apartment. He knew what he was leaving behind: wealth, privilege, security, but the weight of being forced into a life he didn't choose had become unbearable. His gaze lingered for a moment on the framed family photos lining the shelf. Regret flickered briefly in his chest, but it was clear: to find peace, he had to break free from the Harrington world. Hours later, a sleek black car carried him along the darkened outskirts of the city. The glittering skyline of Los Angeles faded in the rearview mirror, its towers shrinking against the night. For the first time, Ryan felt the faint stirrings of freedom, though they were laced with uncertainty. Pulling to the side of the road, he stepped out and took one last look at the city that had shaped and suffocated him. His voice was barely above a whisper, as though speaking only to himself. I don't know what the future holds, but at least it will be mine. With that, he slid back behind the wheel, pressed down on the gas, and drove toward an unknown horizon. Where he hoped to find the answers he had been seeking for so long. Hello, Soul Stories family. Hope you're all doing well. May God bless you with love, joy, and peace. I pray your days shine bright, your burdens grow lighter, and your dreams come true. Tell me, how did our last story touch you? Share your thoughts in the comments. I truly value them. You're more than subscribers, you're family. Your presence means the world to me, and I'm grateful we're on this journey together. Now, let's continue Ryan's story. His car hummed softly as he drove along a winding dirt road that led to a quiet town nestled in Napa Valley. On both sides, endless vineyards stretched toward the horizon, their rows of green leaves glistening in the golden sun. The air here was different, earthy, fragrant, filled with a calmness he had never known in the relentless rhythm of Los Angeles. After hours of searching, Ryan settled on a small house tucked beneath the shade of a sprawling oak. It was simple, with a red-tiled roof and a modest porch. Nothing like the luxury penthouse he had abandoned, but as he stood there, breathing in the crisp vineyard air, he felt something he hadn't in years. Relief. The next morning, he woke not to the blare of city traffic, but to the sweet chorus of birds. With a steaming cup of coffee in hand, he sat on the porch, watching the morning light spill across the vine-covered hills. He didn't know how long he would stay, but for now, this quiet life felt exactly right. A week later, Ryan was driving along a narrow country road when he spotted an old pickup truck stalled on the shoulder. A man crouched by the open hood, muttering curses under his breath. His weathered face was etched with both frustration and years of hard work. Ryan pulled over and stepped out. Need a hand? He asked. The man straightened, wiping his brow. This old thing's always given me trouble, he said with a sigh. Name's Bill. I was on my way to deliver a crate of grapes to Golden Vine Vineyard, but looks like the engines had enough. Ryan peered under the hood, quickly spotting the issue. Without hesitation, he rolled up his sleeves. I think I can fix that. In less than 20 minutes, with a few adjustments and some determination. The engine coughed back to life. Bill's face lit up with gratitude. Well, I'll be damned. Thank you, son. Not many folks stop to help these days. Ryan gave a small smile, brushing the dust from his hands. Sometimes we just need a fresh start and a little help along the way. The truck sputtered, then roared back to life. Mr. Bill's face lit up with relief. Thank you, young man. If it weren't for you, I'd have been stranded. Are you new in town? Ryan gave a small nod. Yeah, just moved here. I was looking for a quieter place to live. Bill chuckled, his laugh deep and hearty. Well, you've picked the right spot. Tell you what, why don't you stop by Golden Vine Vineyard? The young lady who runs it will be mighty glad you saved me and her grapes. Curious, Ryan agreed. Golden Vine Vineyard unfolded before him, like a painting, endless rows of vines, glistening in the afternoon light. A farmhouse, crowned with a red-tiled roof, and a rustic winemaking facility, humming with quiet activity. In the courtyard stood a young woman with chestnut-brown hair tied loosely back. She wore jeans and a plaid shirt, her presence both grounded and graceful. "Emily," Bill called out, waving. "This young man here helped me with the truck. Without him, these grapes would have never made it." Emily Carter turned, her expression softening into a warm smile as she approached. "Thank you. I'm Emily, owner of Golden Vine." "Ryan," he replied, returning the smile. "Nice to meet you." While Emily and Bill inspected the crates, Ryan let his eyes wander over the vineyard. There was something special here, not just in the beauty of the land, but in the energy it carried. It was alive, authentic, so different from the sterile boardrooms and glittering parties of his past life. Emily turned back to him, studying him with curious eyes. "You're not from around here, are you?" "That's right," Ryan said evenly. "Moved here a few days ago. Needed a break from the city." He kept his true identity tucked away, careful not to reveal more than he wanted. Emily nodded, as if she understood more than he said. Then her expression brightened. "Well, if you're not too busy, I could use some help. I've got an old grape press that hasn't worked in weeks. Maybe you could take a look." Ryan agreed without hesitation. She led him to the production area, where a dust-covered, rusting press sat idle in the corner. After a few minutes of tinkering, Ryan spotted the problem and got to work. At last, the machine sputtered, groaned, and came to life. Emily's face lit up in sheer delight. "You fixed it." "I thought I was going to have to scrap the whole thing." Ryan grinned, brushing dirt from his hands. "No problem. If you need more help, just say the word." For a moment, Emily just looked at him, her hazel eyes glimmering with gratitude, then something Ryan couldn't quite name. "If you don't mind," Emily said softly, her eyes meeting his, "how about staying for dinner? It's the least I can do to thank you." Ryan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I'd like that." From that day forward, Ryan became a familiar presence at Golden Vine Vineyard. At first, he only handled small repairs, fixing tools, tightening old hinges, keeping the machines running. But soon, his role expanded. He picked grapes under the rising sun, watered the fields at dusk, and even began learning the delicate art of winemaking. Emily and her younger brother, Jack, an eager 17-year-old with boundless energy, quickly grew used to having him around. Jack, especially, admired Ryan. He trailed after him constantly, eager to learn, asking questions about everything from fixing equipment to life beyond the valley. Mornings often found Ryan and Emily working side by side among the vines. There, conversations flowed with surprising ease, weaving between light-hearted jokes, hidden dreams, and long silences that spoke louder than words. Ryan mentioned his passion for technology, but carefully kept his true identity buried, while Emily confided her hopes of turning Golden Vine into a renowned wine brand, a dream her parents had once held. "You're incredibly strong, Ryan," told her one afternoon as they rested beneath the shade of an old oak. "I've never met anyone as determined as you." Emily's smile was gentle, though tinged with quiet sorrow. "After my parents passed, I didn't have much of a choice. Someone had to take care of Jack, and the vineyard. It's all they left us. I couldn't let it die. Looking at her then, Ryan felt something stir within him, a deep admiration, unlike anything he'd known. In Emily, he saw resilience, tempered with compassion, strength softened by grace. The vineyard began to change him as much as he helped it. He discovered that happiness wasn't found in wealth or boardroom victories, but in simpler things: the honest ache of muscles after a day's work, laughter shared over a homemade dinner, the unspoken comfort of belonging. Over time, Ryan and Emily's bond deepened, not in a sudden rush of passion, but in the steady rhythm of trust built through shared struggles. Emily saw in Ryan a sincerity she hadn't expected from a stranger. Ryan, in turn, found in her something he hadn't realized he was searching for: warmth, family, and the faint outline of a home. One evening, as the golden sunset spilled across the vineyard in molten light, painting the rows of vines in amber and crimson, Emily and Ryan stood side by side in silence. The world seemed to slow around them. For the first time in years, Ryan didn't feel lost. The vineyard shimmered under a soft amber glow as the sun dipped behind the hills. Ryan and Emily sat quietly on the porch, overlooking the endless rows of vines swaying gently in the evening breeze. "I don't know why you came here," Emily said softly, her voice almost lost in the hush of twilight. "But I'm glad you did." Ryan's lips curved into a quiet smile, his gaze lingering on her. "I think I'm glad too. Maybe this is what I was meant to find." In that moment, he realized Napa Valley had become more than a refuge. It was a place where he could begin again, but with his new life came the secret he carried like a shadow. To Emily, to Jack, and to the townsfolk, he was simply Ryan, the unemployed engineer who'd left behind the noise of the city in search of peace. What they didn't know was that he was the heir to Harrington Technologies, a man who had walked away from a fortune and a legacy suffocating with expectations. The ordinary life felt liberating. Here, he blended seamlessly into the rhythm of golden vine, working the soil, tending the vines, and sharing meals that tasted of family. Yet, there were moments when the truth almost betrayed him. A casual comment about supply chains, a too precise suggestion on management his years of corporate training slipped through, and he'd quickly mask it with a laugh, hoping no one noticed that Emily, for her part, had secrets of her own. Outwardly, she was strong, capable, determined, unshakable, but the truth gnawed at her in silence. Golden Vine Vineyard, the legacy of her family for generations, was drowning in debt. After her father's sudden death, she had abandoned her own dream of becoming an artist and thrown herself fully into saving the vineyard. Every harvest, every bottle of wine, carried the weight of survival. She told no one, not Jack, too young to bear the burden, not the townsfolk she feared their pity, and certainly not Ryan, the man she was beginning to trust, and perhaps feel more for than she dared admit. Pride held her tongue, but fear anchored it. If he knew the truth, would he see her differently? Late one summer afternoon, the sky darkened. Heavy clouds rolled over the valley, blotting out the warmth of the sun. By nightfall, a sudden storm had descended. Howling winds tore through the vines, and sheets of rain lashed the earth. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the vineyard in stark, fleeting flashes. Inside the farmhouse, Emily stood at the window, her hands pressed against the glass as she watched the storm rage. Her heart pounded with dread. The vineyard could withstand a gentle rain, but this storm threatened to destroy everything she had fought for. Behind her, Ryan stepped closer. "Emily," he said firmly, his voice steady even against the thunder. "We'll get through this, together." For the first time, she didn't feel entirely alone. The storm had left devastation in its wake. A significant portion of Golden Vine Vineyard lay in ruined grape trellises, splintered and toppled. Wooden stakes broken like matchsticks, and rainwater pooled in muddy streams between the rows. When Ryan awoke the next morning, he was startled by the frantic voices outside. Rushing out, he froze at the sit-a-melee, and Jack, drenched and exhausted, struggling against the overwhelming task of cleaning the destruction. Emily stood at the heart of the chaos, her hands muddy, her face streaked with sweat and rain. Her expression was steady. Her eyes betrayed the truth, glistening with unspilled tears. "We can manage this, Jack," she told her younger brother, her voice firm but trembling. "As long as we work hard, Golden Vine won't fall." Ryan's chest tightened. In that moment, he saw not just her pain, but her unshakable will. And he resolved quietly, firmly, that he would help her by any means necessary. Knowing Emily's pride would never allow her to accept direct financial support, Ryan found another way. That night, he made calls in secret, contacting a major agricultural supplier. He ordered everything the vineyard needed: new trellises, fertilizers, irrigation parts, tools paid in full under his own name. He instructed the supplier to deliver the materials anonymously, framing it as a gift from a mystery benefactor. Days later, when the supplies arrived in trucks, Emily's eyes widened in shock. "Who sent these?" she asked, suspicion flickering as her gaze slid toward Ryan. "Maybe someone who wants to help," he replied, forcing his tone into calm neutrality. Emily studied him, unconvinced, but chose not to press further. There was too much work to do, and with Ryan's steady hands, Jack's enthusiasm, and the support of a few kind neighbors, Golden Vine slowly began to breathe again. But fate has a way of uncovering secrets. A few days later, Emily was sorting through papers when her eyes fell on an envelope tucked among the crates of supplier's invoice. Her heart lurched. Printed clearly across the page was Ryan's name. That evening, as Ryan knelt beside Jack, repairing the irrigation system, Emily approached, her steps slow and deliberate. In her hand was the invoice, now crumpled from the force of her grip. "Why did you do this?" Her voice trembled, a mixture of anger and something deeper hurt. Ryan turned and froze, his stomach sinking. He knew instantly what she had found. "Emily," his voice was low, earnest. "I only wanted to help. Help me," she cut in, her voice breaking as tears welled in her eyes. "Do you think I can't handle this on my own?" "I know how strong you are," Ryan said quickly, his eyes pleading. "I've seen how hard you fought for Jack, for this vineyard. But no one can do everything alone. I just wanted to support you in the best way I could." Emily shook her head, taking a step back, her hands trembling around the paper. "You said you came here to find peace, but it's clear you're hiding something. How can I trust you when I don't even know who you really are?" Ryan opened his mouth, but the words caught in his throat. Silence pressed heavily between them. For the first time since coming to Napa, Ryan felt the fragile world he had built begin to crack. Ryan wanted to tell Emily everything about who he was, about the empire he had walked away from, but fear gripped him. What if revealing the truth only confirmed her doubts? What if she believed his help had been nothing more than pity from a rich man who had never struggled a day in his life? So he kept silent. Without another word, Emily had turned and walked away that night, leaving Ryan alone in the quiet vineyard, guilt weighing heavier than the storm-damaged vines ever had. In the days that followed, her distance was unmistakable. She immersed herself in endless tasks, speaking to Ryan only when necessary. Jack noticed the tension, but said nothing, choosing instead to watch quietly, waiting for the silence between them to break. For Ryan, the ache was constant. For the first time in his life, someone else's trust meant more than his own comfort, and the fear of losing it gnawed at him. One evening, as the sun melted into gold across the hills, Ryan stood on a ridge overlooking Golden Vine. Below, Emily worked alone among the newly repaired trellises, her movements weary but unwavering, just as she had on the day they met, tired but unbroken. Ryan's chest tightened. He couldn't keep hiding. Not forever, if he wanted her to understand truly. Understand she needed to see his heart, not just the pieces of the past he let slip. And yet, the days rolled on. He and Emily worked side by side again, the rhythm of vineyard life slowly stitching them back together. Ryan learned to tell Cabernet, from Merlot by leaf shape, to feel the weight of a grape cluster and know if it was ready. Emily, in turn, began to open up. Golden Vine is the only thing my father didn't lose, she said one evening as they shared a simple dinner on the porch, her gaze distant. He was powerful, once a millionaire in finance. But when his investments collapsed and the scandals came, everything vanished. The house, the business, the friends, all gone. Only this vineyard remained. I promised myself I'd never let it slip away. It's the last piece of him I still have. Her voice cracked faintly, though her eyes remained steady. Ryan felt his admiration deepen, mixed now with something far more dangerous, love. But secrets have a way of surfacing. One afternoon, Ryan slipped away to make a quick call. The city still tugged at his life, even if he pretended otherwise. A familiar voice echoed through the line, stern and insistent. "Ryan, you can't hide forever," the voice said. "Your family is furious. They want you back to face your responsibilities. You can't just keep living like this." Ryan's jaw tightened. His eyes darted to the rows of vines, making sure no one was near. "I told you, I'm not coming back. Not yet. Maybe not ever." But what he didn't realize, what he couldn't hear, was the faint crunch of footsteps in the dirt just beyond the row of vines. Jack. The boy froze. Hidden by leaves heavy with grapes, his wide eyes fixed on Ryan. His heart raced as the words sank in. Responsibilities, family, furious. Ryan Harrington wasn't who he said he was. Jack froze, unable to believe what he had just heard. The man he had trusted, the one who had worked beside him, laughed with him, treated him like family, wasn't who he claimed to be. His chest tightened as Ryan's words echoed in his head. Heir, responsibilities, family. That evening, unable to carry the weight of the secret, Jack went to Emily. "Emily," he whispered urgently, his eyes wide, "Ryan isn't who we think he is. He's rich, he's running away from his life." Emily frowned, shaking her head. "Jack, don't jump to conclusions. Ryan isn't like those people who use money to solve everything. He genuinely cares about this place." But Jack's words took root, burrowing into her heart. Doubt began to creep in. She started noticing little things she had overlooked before: Ryan's comfort when discussing business, his instinctive grasp of financial details, the refined manners that slipped out when he forgot to mask them, determined to know the truth. Emily waited. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the vineyard in hues of amber and rose, she sat with Ryan on the porch. The silence between them stretched, broken only by the hum of crickets. Finally, she turned to him, her voice quiet but firm. "Ryan, who are you really? And this time, I don't want to hear any more lies." Ryan's chest tightened. He had dreaded this moment, yet he knew there was no escaping it. Drawing a slow breath, he met her gaze. "Emily, I lied to you. My real name is Ryan Harrington. I'm the heir to Harrington Technologies. I came here to escape my life of luck, to avoid an arranged marriage my family was forcing on me." The words fell heavy between them. Emily sat in stunned silence, her heart cracking with every syllable. "You've been lying to me from the very beginning." Her voice trembled with hurt and betrayal. "I didn't tell you," Ryan said, desperately leaning forward, "because I wanted to live a life that felt real, free from my family's expectations, free from judgment. I wanted to be just Ryan, not a Harrington." Emily rose abruptly, her eyes shining with tears. "And you thought lying was the way to find honesty?" Her voice broke. "I trusted you, Ryan. You said you wanted to help me. But all this time, you were just hiding, using this vineyard as your escape." Her chest heaved, her hands shaking. "What else are you hiding from me?" Ryan's heart twisted. He stood, reaching for her, his voice raw. "Emily, everything I've done here, every word, every action has been because I care about you. I never wanted to hurt you." But Emily stepped back, shaking her head. Her face was pale, her voice trembling with both fury and sorrow. "Ryan, I don't need someone who comes here with secrets and lies. How can I believe anything you've said? How can I ever trust you?" The silence that followed was heavier than the storm that had once ravaged the vineyard. Finally, her words cut through the night like a blade. "Leave the vineyard, Ryan. I don't want to see you here again." Ryan's throat tightened. He looked at her one last time, his eyes full of sorrow and regret, knowing there was nothing left to say. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away, each step heavier than the last, leaving Emily alone on the porch, her tears falling into the dark. Ryan walked away from Golden Vine with a heavy heart, every step weighted by guilt and regret. The peaceful hills of Napa Valley faded behind him, replaced by the glittering chaos of Los Angeles, the very world he had once fought to escape. The city's glass towers rose like cold sentinels, their lights stabbing through the night sky. The constant rush of cars, voices, and neon felt suffocating compared to the quiet serenity of the vineyard. But Ryan knew what awaited him, and there was no running this time. That evening, he stepped into the Harrington mansion. His footsteps echoed across polished marble, the vast halls lined with oil portraits and chandeliers that seemed more prison bars than luxuries. In the grand living room, Charles and Evelyn Harrington waited his father, stern and commanding, and his mother, calm but calculating. Charles rose as Ryan entered, his voice sharp as a blade. "Finally, you've decided to come home. We need to talk about your wedding to Charlotte. Her family has been waiting for your decision." Ryan's jaw tightened, but he stood tall, meeting his father's gaze. "No, Father. I'm not marrying Charlotte. I refuse to let my life become another one of your business transactions." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. She stepped forward, her tone softer but tinged with manipulation. "Ryan, you must understand. This isn't just about you, it's about securing the future of Harrington Technologies. If you refuse, you'll lose everything." A bitter laugh escaped Ryan. "If the company's future depends on a loveless marriage, then maybe it isn't worth saving. I don't need your money. I don't need your inheritance. I want a life of my own free from these suffocating expectations." Charles's face darkened. He slammed his palm against the table, the sound cracking through the room. "You even realize what you're saying? You're throwing away everything we built for you, your entire legacy." Ryan didn't flinch. His voice was steady, unshaken. "I know exactly what I'm saying. If I stay, I'll just be another pawn in your power games. But I've met someone who's shown me what it means to live authentically, to feel alive, and I can't go back to the empty life you're offering." Evelyn's expression softened for the briefest moment. Her voice dropped. "Do you love her?" Ryan's gaze faltered, his voice quiet but firm. "Yes, she's unlike anyone I've ever met. But I hurt her, and unless I make things right, I'll never forgive myself." Charles's glare hardened into ice. His words struck like a sentence. "If you walk out that door, you're no longer my son." The silence that followed was deafening. Ryan's chest tightened, but his decision was already made. He drew a steady breath. "Then so be it. I'll build my own life, without your money, without your name, without another glance." Ryan turned and walked away from the mansion's opulent halls. He carried nothing but the weight of his choices and the fire of his resolve. For the first time in his life, he was free yet utterly alone. Emily's hands trembled as she traced her father's handwriting across the faded draft. The ink had smudged in places, but his words carried an unshakable conviction. Golden Vine is more than a vineyard. It's a legacy, a promise that our family's roots will continue to grow long after we're gone. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed the paper to her chest, hearing his voice echo in her memory. Remembering the nights he would walk the vineyard rows with lantern in hand, telling her that every vine was like a child needing care, patience, and love to flourish. Jack watched her quietly. Dad believed in this place, Emily. Even when times were tough, he wouldn't have wanted us to give it up. Emily swallowed hard, torn between her father's dream and the reality pressing in around her. The debts were piling, the creditors growing impatient, and the offer from Westfield gleamed like a lifeline. Yet the thought of strangers tearing down the vines, replacing them with sleek condos or vacation resorts, twisted her stomach into knots. That night, Emily sat at the old oak desk in her room, her father's plans spread out before her. Next to them lay Westfield's glossy offer letter. Two futures stared back at her, one secure but soulless, the other uncertain yet filled with meaning. Her heart ached with loneliness. She thought of Ryan's lies, his confession, the pain he caused. And yet, she couldn't deny that when he was there, she had felt stronger, braver. He had seen her not just as a struggling vineyard owner, but as someone capable of creating something extraordinary. The deadline loomed. If she didn't respond soon, Westfield would move on, and the creditors would come knocking harder than ever. Emily rose from her desk and stepped onto the porch. The vineyard stretched out beneath the stars, rows of vines glowing under the silver moonlight. She whispered into the night as if speaking to her father. "What do I do, Dad? Do I fight for this place, or let it go?" The breeze rustled through the leaves as though answering. But no clear path revealed itself, and somewhere, far away in Los Angeles, Ryan Harrington lay awake in a modest apartment stripped of his wealth, cut off from his family empire. His mind wandered back to Golden Vine, to Emily's fierce determination, to the pain in her eyes when she told him to leave. He clenched his fists. He had broken her trust. but he couldn't let her fight alone. For the first time in months, Ryan knew where he truly belonged. After extensive research, Ryan presented Emily with a detailed plan. "We don't need to sell." "To Westfield," he explained, spreading papers across the kitchen table late into the night. "If we restructure the Vineyard's debt, diversify the wine offerings, and expand into wine tourism tastings, weekend retreats, farm-to-table dinners, we can not only stabilize Golden Vine, but turn it into a destination." Emily leaned over the papers, scanning the numbers. She wanted to dismiss it as another lofty promise, but the projections were realistic, grounded in strategy rather than fantasy. "You make it sound possible," she admitted, her voice quiet. Ryan smiled faintly. "It is possible, but I know spreadsheets aren't enough. You need to see me out there in the dirt, in the vines, at your side." True to his word, Ryan traded his tailored suits for worn boots and rolled-up sleeves. He worked dawn to dusk, alongside Emily and Jack, mending fences, hauling crates, pruning vines under the unforgiving sun. At night, his hands blistered and his muscles ached, but he refused to back down. Slowly, Emily began to notice the difference. He wasn't just a man of wealth and words, he was willing to earn his place at Golden Vine. Jack, still wary at first, couldn't help but respect Ryan's determination. One evening, as Ryan stumbled in from the fields, exhausted but grinning, Jack muttered, "You're not half bad for a city boy." Ryan laughed, brushing dust from his jeans. "Don't tell anyone. I've got a reputation to uphold." Emily watched the exchange from the porch, her heart conflicted. The vineyard was beginning to show signs of revival, not just in the fields, but in her spirit. Ryan's presence was no longer just a reminder of betrayal, but of possibility. Still, a quiet fear lingered inside her. Could she trust him fully, or was she setting herself up for another heartbreak? The vineyard was changing, so were they, and just as hope began to bloom again, Westfield Development returned, this time with an even bigger offer and a subtle warning. "If you don't sell, we'll find another way to take Golden Vine." Ryan took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly as he reached for hers. "Emily," he said softly, his voice thick with sincerity, "I've made mistakes that nearly cost me you. But being here, beside you, working for something real, has shown me the man I want to be. I don't just want to help you save Golden Vine. I want to build this life with you. Not as a Harrington, not as the man I was before, but as someone worthy of your trust and love." Emily's chest tightened, torn between the ache of the past and the undeniable warmth in his eyes. The moonlight painted his features in silver, making the vulnerability in his expression impossible to ignore. "Ryan," she whispered, her voice trembling, "you hurt me in ways I didn't think I could forgive. But you've also fought for this vineyard, for Jack, and for me. And that means more than words." For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken feelings. Then Ryan stepped closer, his voice lower, almost a plea. "I'm not asking for forever, not yet. I'm asking for a chance. To love you honestly, openly, and without fear. To be here, with you, wherever this path takes us." Emily's eyes glistened as she searched his face. Her heart screamed to surrender, but her mind still carried the weight of betrayal. Finally, she let out a shaky breath and nodded. Double quote, "One chance, Ryan, just one. Don't break it." Ryan smiled, relieved, humbled, and overjoyed all at once. Slowly, almost reverently, he leaned in and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was not fiery or desperate, but tender an unspoken promise of something fragile yet strong. A beginning born from forgiveness. Above them, the vines swayed in the gentle night breeze, as if the land itself was blessing their union. But as the vineyard finally tasted hope, a storm was brewing. Westfield developments had not disappeared, and their next move would threaten everything Emily and Ryan were just beginning to rebuild. As Emily finished her vows, the entire vineyard seemed to hold its breath. A gentle breeze rustled through, the rows of vines carrying with it the sweet scent of grapes and wildflowers. For a moment, time itself stood still. "You may now kiss the bride," the officiant said warmly. Ryan cupped Emily's face tenderly, his lips brushing hers in a kiss that spoke not only of passion but of promise. The crowd erupted in cheers, Jack clapping the loudest, his grin wide and unguarded. The reception unfolded beneath a canopy of twinkling lights strung between the vines. Long wooden tables were laid with homemade dishes, wines from golden vine, and laughter that carried through the night air. Neighbors toasted to love, resilience, and second chances. Music filled the vineyard as couples danced barefoot in the grass, lanterns glowing like fireflies above them. Jack stole the microphone for a toast, his voice cracking just slightly. "Emily, Ryan, what you've built here is more than a vineyard. It's a family, and today you've given us all hope that no matter how hard life gets, dreams can grow again if we nurture them with love." Emily wiped her eyes as Ryan squeezed her hand. They both knew this was more than just a wedding, it was the rebirth of Golden Vine, a symbol of everything they had fought for. As the night wore on, Ryan and Emily slipped away for a quiet walk. Through the vines, the same path where Ryan had once confessed his love. The moonlight bathed them in silver, just as it had that night, only now Emily wore his ring and bore his name. Hand in hand, they paused at the crest of a hill overlooking the vineyard. Rows of vines stretched endlessly, a sea of green kissed by the stars. "This," Emily whispered, leaning against him, "this is the life I always dreamed of." Ryan kissed the top of her head softly, "And it's only the beginning." Together, they gazed over Golden Vine, not just a vineyard, but their legacy, their love, and their forever. When Ryan and Emily exchanged rings and received blessings from those gathered, the air filled with pure happiness. Laughter, warm embraces, and even tears of joy made the ceremony unforgettably an echo of love that would linger in every corner of Golden Vine. After the wedding, their long-nurtured dreams finally began to take root. Together they built a small winery on the estate, where visitors could witness the journey of each bottle, from the sunlit vines to the final pour. A tasting room opened, its wide windows framing rolling hills, inviting guests to sip wine while breathing in the beauty of the valley. Ryan, with his sharp business sense, shaped Golden Vine's brand into something more than wine. It became a story. Each label carried the vineyard's struggles, triumphs, and their love, drawing praise not only from curious tourists, but from renowned wine critics. Emily's creativity blossomed. She designed each wine label with an artist's heart, and transformed the old barn into a gallery where local art met local wine. These gatherings filled the vineyard with music, laughter, and community, making Golden Vine a cultural haven as much as a winery. Jack, once the boy Emily had fought so hard to protect, grew into a confident young man. He took on the daily management of Golden Vine, ensuring smooth operations and fostering a sense of family among all who worked there. His quiet dedication completed the circle his parents had once dreamed of. One evening, as the day's work wound down, Ryan and Emily walked hand in hand through the vineyard. The sunset painted the sky in shades of amber and rose, the vines glowing gold in the fading light. Can you believe how much Golden Vine has changed in such a short time? Ryan asked, wonder in his voice as his eyes lingered on the new winery. Emily leaned her head against his shoulder, smiling softly. It's not just the vineyard that's changed, Ryan. It's us. This place gave me peace and it gave me you. Ryan's hand tightened around hers, his heart brimming with gratitude. Thank you, Emily. I don't want to imagine a life without you. Her gaze lifted to his, tender and certain. We built this together. This isn't just my dream anymore, it's ours. And I think... She paused, her smile deepening. We're only just getting started. And so their story closes with the image of Ryan and Emily standing in the vineyard, bathed in golden sunlight. Golden Vine was no longer just a vineyard, it had become a home, a legacy, and a promise of love renewed with every harvest. A place where hope was planted, and dreams would forever grow.